everyone, Alexa Donne here, and today I am talking about 7 reasons you should leave your agent. Now that sounds dramatic, and this is not about being prescriptive, but more going over 7 reasons you might want to leave your agent, or 7 reasons that might contribute to your leaving your agent. Now, as I go over these, I'm going to give you the disclaimer. Just because you're having one of these problems doesn't mean you should definitely leave your agent. But if you are having one or more of these problems, you're not alone. I want to kind of make this video to help anyone who is kind of struggling with their representation situation, but also say that if you are having more than one of these problems, that it is probably time to seriously consider leaving your agent and finding new representation. I'll also say that it is totally normal if you are having a tough time with your agent and you're having these feelings and you're thinking about leaving, to be completely terrified. It is a really scary thing to end that relationship and try to find a new agent. So what are some of the reasons that you might want to leave your agent? The first is bad communication. If you're having trouble getting in touch with your agent, if you're sending them emails and it's taking them weeks to get back to you, or heaven forbid more, if it takes, it shouldn't take 2 weeks in the first place, but it definitely shouldn't take more than a month for you to hear back from your agent. And also, if the communication you are getting back isn't sufficient, if you ask them questions and they're not answering your questions, or they're dodging around your questions, if they are really, really slow when it comes to reading your material. It shouldn't take 6 months for your agent to read your book. These are serious concerns about the communication aspect of the relationship that you have with your agent. This can also be a lack of transparency and your agent not keeping you properly updated with what is happening with your work. If you're on submission, it's, them not following up with you for months and leaving you completely in the dark with what is happening. These are all examples of bad communication, and I'll tell you that probably at least 50% of the time the reason people do leave their agents is bad communication. If you are in this situation, I'll tell you there are plenty of agents out there who are really, really great at communication. They get back to you within hours or max days when you reach out to them. They're very clear, they answer your questions, and they're super transparent when it comes to what is going on with you, your book, and your work. The second reason you might want to leave your agent is simply bad fit. This is kind of a nebulous category that can encompass a lot of different things, but very often, probably the other 50% of the time, bad fit is a reason for agent-author relationships ending. This doesn't always mean that there's fault on either side, it's just a bad fit. But some of the things that can make up bad fit, it could be a style mismatch. So for example, you might have a very kind of strict and not touchy-feely agent, but you as an author, you really need someone who's a bit more casual or loose or can be more nurturing with you. You might have an agent who really likes to micromanage you and the business relationship, and you don't want someone who's dictating what you do with social media or the exact projects that you write. But on the flip of this, I will point out that there are plenty of authors for whom this isn't a problem. They want their agent to provide very specific direction for what projects they should be working on, or they don't even care about social media, so it doesn't bother them that they have an agent who basically says, ooh, you should or shouldn't tweet that. Another reason for bad fit might be that your agent is really intimidating and you are afraid of them. You generally shouldn't be afraid of your agent, and so if this is the case, it could just be a bad fit. Or lastly, another good example of poor fit can be if you are with an agent at a large agency who has a very large client list, which means they just don't have a lot of time for you. You may need the fit of an agent who has a smaller list, who's at a boutique agency or a solo operation, or vice versa. A lot of people want to be on a larger list at a larger agency so that they can take advantage of those sorts of agency resources. It really is down to the individual what they need from their agent and their business relationship. The third reason you might want to leave your agent is they serve themselves more than they serve you, / they are a coward. If your agent is unwilling or unable to stand up to your publisher, whether that's your editor or the literal publisher, like the head of the publishing house, to basically take your side, stand up for you, defend you when things are rough, then they are not doing their job. The agent's responsibility is always to you, the author, who are their client, but also it is a business relationship. If your agent is taking your publisher's side over yours repeatedly, that is a problem. Or if they're simply too afraid. If your agent is afraid to escalate issues and, have tough conversations with your publisher, they are not going to serve you well. And you have to ask yourself, are they negotiating your contract properly? Or what's going to happen if you end up in a really bad situation? You need an agent who is your advocate. And you don't want them to favor their relationship with your publisher over their relationship with you. There are agents who will always take the editor's side because they want to protect other potential sales, like they want to be able to sell to that publisher in the future. And while this is a very understandable concern on the side of the agent, it can be deeply concerning when they are therefore unwilling to back their author. Your agent should always stand up for you, and they definitely shouldn't gaslight you. So if you, on top of all of this, have your agent convincing you that you are the problem because you are upset that they are not standing up for you, you may need to leave your agent. The fourth reason you may want to leave your agent is they are holding submission hostage. If you sign with someone and they lock you into endless revisions on your manuscript, you might have a problem. You should not be revising and revising and revising for months and months and months or years. It sometimes happens that it's years and your agent is simply never happy with it. They're not giving you a firm timeline of when you will be on submission. Agents who do this can hold you and your career hostage for years. So if you're in a situation where you're just always revising and never going on submission, you may want to leave your agent. They are damaging your career. Related, if they are rejecting multiple project ideas or even entire manuscripts and thus holding submissions hostage because they are refusing to submit the things that you are turning into them, you may need to reevaluate that relationship. I can tell you anecdotally, I know plenty of stories where someone was with an agent who had them revise and revise and revise, or even told them that their project was unsellable. They left that agent, found a new one, and sold those books. The fifth reason that you might want to leave your agent is if they want you to be a different writer than the writer that you are. This can be that you have like kind of weird niche literary or just kind of structurally odd ideas for books. You like writing weird, quirky books, and they really want you to be a mainstream commercial writer so that they can, sell your books fast for tons of money, but you're just not that kind of writer. Or if they want you to endlessly write books that are carbon copies of the first one that they sold to you, but that is not the direction in which you want to take your career. It could also be an agent who is basically always kind of needling you and wearing you down, manipulating you into writing what they want you to write so that they can sell it. Always remember that you don't work for your agent. Your agent works for you, and this should be a partnership. You should be coming to the table, kind of on even footing. You write books that they like, that they feel that they can sell, and you're going to work together. It should never be about your agent telling you what you have to do in order for them to make sales off of your work. Now, I will offer a small caveat that covers this and a couple of these other topics. Generally speaking, agents do have expertise about the publishing industry that you don't have. So don't mistake guidance from your agent in terms of kind of what the market is looking like and what is sellable versus what isn't, or what might be inherent flaws in a project that you share with them. Don't dismiss them out of hand just because your agent doesn't 100% fall in love with the thing that you're sharing with them. Sometimes you do have to move on from a project and try something else, and there's nothing wrong with your agent relationship just because your agent doesn't like something that you did or has differing advice. You always have to evaluate these things on a case-by-case basis, and as the author, be open to feedback. But if you're experiencing these things, multiple of these things, and it's not just that your agent is kind of nudging you in another direction for what you should write, but also that, you know, they make you revise endlessly and the communication is bad. Like it tends to be more than one thing that speaks to a bad agent relationship. So none of these things should be taken individually as, oh, that means your agent is bad. And especially not when it comes to them advising you on kind of the market and your writing, because that is in essence also their job. Which brings me to the 6th reason you might want to leave your agent, and that is they can't sell your book or books. Obviously, an agent's job is to sell your books. If you're with an agent and submission has gone really, really badly, or you have questions about how they've done submission for your novel, or you know your book has gone out to editors and you feel like editors aren't even reading your work, you're not getting answers back, and maybe this happens not just with one book, but with multiple books, you may have to ask yourself, is your agent capable of selling your book or selling books in general? This tends to come up most often with schmagents. Generally speaking, any agent who's a pretty good agent can sell books. Can they sell your book? But I add this reason for why you might want to leave your agent, because if you are suspecting that you are with a schmagent who is a shady agent, can they sell your book might be the most important question to ask yourself, because very often schmagents are not capable of selling a book or selling it well. You should not only look at their sales history before you sign with them, please, but if you do suspect that you have signed with a schmagent, you need to seriously evaluate what were their sales before you signed. How has it gone for you on submission? What has your working relationship with them been like? Are they getting your work read? One sign of a schmagent is editors don't really read your work. Have conversations with authors, with other agents. Ask them how their submission went, kind of how long it took to hear from people, the kind of percentage of editors who requested their work, read their work, and seemed to have actually read it. How long did it take to get responses from editors? The sign of a bad agent or a schmagent often is they're not actually getting your work read, and therefore they can't really sell your work. Or they can only sell your work to small publishers, digital first publishers, which aren't bad in and of themselves, but if anyone can submit to them, you don't even need an agent to sell to those, what is your agent doing? Or likewise, many schmagents sell to disreputable publishers or publishers with bad contracts, and if those are the only sales that they are capable of, how are they best advocating for you? This is a really tough topic to talk about because it really is kind of a case-by-case basis. I can't blanket tell you, oh, if they didn't sell your first book, your agent is bad. Sometimes, honestly, even great agents, it takes multiple tries on multiple books, or if it's one book, it can be multiple rounds of submission, there can be revision involved. I speak as an author who went on submission more than once before selling her book. My first book, gosh, I had a really long submission over a year and it didn't sell for lots of complex reasons, which were not my agent's fault. And then for Brightly Burning, we did multiple rounds of submission and I had to revise between the first and the second round. I was with great agents in both cases, so sometimes not selling is just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But if you are seeing a pattern and you are genuinely worried about your agent's ability to sell your book, talk to other authors. That is my best tip and recommendation, because comparing and contrasting and getting advice from people, whether they've been in a similar boat or if they have sold their book, can give you great perspective on what's going on in your relationship. And last but certainly not least, the 7th reason that you might want to leave your agent, and this is honestly the big one, you no longer trust them. Trust is the number one most important thing in your agent relationship. And all of the other reasons I've gone over in this video of why you might want to leave your agent or you should leave your agent tie into trust. If your agent is doing any of the things that I've talked about, poor communication, or if they're really abrasive, if they're super picky, if they're making you revise endlessly, or shooting down project ideas, if you don't have absolute trust in your agent, any number of these things will make you question your relationship with them and also probably you as a writer. Trust is such an important ingredient because it does help kind of that line between, you know, it is normal for an agent to give you their thoughts on the market and kind of your projects and what's going on. And if you trust them, then you will listen to what they say, and it's not a deal breaker to move on from a project or try something different or to revise your book in this way. But if you don't trust your agent, it's basically game over, because then you can't trust anything they say. Can you trust what they've told you about submission? Can you trust that they've submitted you to the right editors? Can you trust that their editorial vision and revising for a year is the right thing to do? Trust is just essential in your relationship with your agent. And so if you no longer trust your agent, if you do that soul searching and you no longer trust them to represent you well, to guide you in your career and to sell your work, then you need to leave your agent. Now, the next part is the hardest part, which is leaving your agent. I will make a whole video on the steps that you need to take if you have decided to or are thinking of leaving your agent. I will do that in another video. There are kind of industry standards and protocols that you do need to follow if you are leaving your agent. But for now, I will leave you here. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions about any of these things I've gone over, or if you are also an agented writer or you've had an agent and left your agent, anything that you want to contribute to this. I assume if you're watching this video, you're either very curious or you might be in this boat. I know how tough it is. I have been there, and just know that if you do need to leave your agent, or if you're thinking about it, it doesn't make you a bad person, it doesn't make them a bad person, it doesn't make you a failure, and it doesn't make them a failure. As I mentioned, the second reason, fit is often a huge reason for it, and it tends to be a pretty kind of judgment-free zone. You're not alone, we're here to support you, and again, this is why I highly recommend developing your community of other authors. Very often when you're in this situation, talking to your friends is the #1 thing you should do to help you get through this situation. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, everyone, happy writing.